What is the mission of the Defense Information System Agency, DISA's Hosting and Compute Center? How is the HaCC transforming the way DISA does business? And what does the future hold for DISA's Hosting and Compute Center? I'll explore these questions and so much more with our very special guest, Sharon Woods, Director of the Hosting and Compute Center at the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA. I'd like to understand the history and mission of DISA's Hosting and Compute Center. How does it support the overall mission of DISA?
Sure. So the Hosting and Compute Center was established last year, October 1st, 2021, and that was part of a larger reorganization underneath DISA. In terms of supporting Lieutenant General Skinner's vision for the agency and the strategic plan, he is very much focused on speed. He calls it velocity of action to win. And so, the Hosting and Compute Center, what we affectionately call the HaCC, we've really taken that to heart. And so we set up an action plan that lays out our vision, our mission, our strategic goals, and the intent is that nests underneath the 5 lines of effort that he laid out. So the HaCC's vision is to be the provider of choice for hosting and compute for the warfighter. And our mission, in line with that, is to provide best value hosting and compute solutions.
Yeah, it's got to be a challenging role and effort to do what you've just laid out. So I was wondering if you could share with us some of your top management challenges in making it happen in your position, and how have you sought to address those challenges?
Yeah, so we have a 2,000 plus organization. Our folks are globally dispersed, so they're not just in the United States, and there's a lot of diversity in that workforce. So certainly that creates challenges unto itself. From my perspective, the challenges are less about the technology and more about organizational change management, empowering the workforce and trust across the workforce and leadership. If you don't have that, everything else is a house of cards and just falls flat. And so to get after that kind of thing, communication is key. So I'm doing monthly town halls with a lot of, Q&A. I've been getting out to all of our locations and spending time, not with just leadership, but at the working level as well, and giving them a chance to talk directly to me rather than through a chain of command. And we also have an automated anonymous suggestion box. So if folks aren't comfortable with their name being associated with something, there's a very easy way for them to go online and make a suggestion. So from my perspective, the more that I can help the workforce connect with the mission, the more that becomes a springboard for the HaCC to achieve its vision.
So I want to transition. You mentioned the vision of the HaCC, and I'd like for you to sort of delve a little deeper and maybe outline some of your key priorities for the HaCC over the next couple of years.
So I'll go back to the tooling part of this, and I'll mention processes and people as well. But we want to be that provider of choice for hosting and compute. So let me unpack what that means. Right now, we're responsible for data centers, private cloud, and public cloud. And historically, there was this myth in my mind of everyone's going to cloud, and it's this binary choice between data center and public cloud. And, that's to me a misunderstanding of the technology. There's way too much diversity in the department's mission for only one kind of technology to meet all of those requirements. But for the HaCC, in order to provide what the warfighter, what our customers need, we need to make those technologies work in a more interoperable way. We need them to be unified so that the options are not just there, but that they work in a way that's orchestrated and gives the most to the mission partner as possible. You can't get there without technicians of the future. You can't get there without using Agile methodologies, or you move too slow, or you have folks that just aren't properly trained in order to drive towards that change. So, right now we have data centers in private cloud and public cloud. I'm really looking to transform the entire operation. So we have hybrid cloud centers that offer all forms of hosting and compute.
Sharon, would you tell us more about the Joint Warfighting Cloud Capability Program? What services will be provided to the warfighters, even at the edges? Any status on the program you'd like to share to date?
Yeah, so right now, the Joint Warfighting Cloud Capability, or JWCC, acquisition is in the process of that evaluation and getting to contract awards. So as I'm sure you know, I can't discuss the procurement specifics, but that said, I certainly can delve into the requirements and how we got to where we are. So JWCC is the effort subsequent to what was JEDI Cloud, for those listeners that remember JEDI Cloud. It was a single award, IDIQ, and it got kind of mired in litigation. The technology changed over time during that entire process. And the department, I think, was continuously introspective and doing that market research to understand what makes sense. So when we started it in 2017, the multi-cloud orchestration capability was nowhere near what it is today. And it just became clear that we needed to pivot our acquisition strategy and focus on awarding contracts to multiple vendors so that we can reap the benefit of all those different capabilities. In terms of the scope of JWCC, it includes all classification levels, so unclassified, secret, and top secret. It also includes integrated cross-domain, meaning that you can move up and down classification levels securely. It also includes cloud that's available not just in the United States, but cloud that can be accessed outside the United States, OCONUS, and also at the tactical edge. So where the military operates, oftentimes there are no communications. There isn't a persistent connection to the cloud. And so how do you make cloud work at the tactical edge? And so that is a problem set that JWCC definitely will deliver against.
Sharon, you mentioned a couple of times the term or the phrase technicians of the future, a technician of the future. I was hoping you could elaborate for our audience. What do you mean by that? How did you come up with that kind of that kind of idea concept? And what are you doing around workforce enablement?
Yeah, so technician of the future, it is about taking a historical mindset and moving it in a different direction. So historically, a lot of the disciplines around hosting and compute, if you think about database or server or even sort of software development, there were groups of workforce specialized in that discipline, and they worked in their area. And so it was very stovepiped and very siloed. The technology changed. The technology became a lot more fluid, right? Between hybrid, so interactions between data center and cloud, and then with multi-cloud, you have to have a workforce that's comfortable with operating in all of those different technology domains, not just one particular area. So technician of the future is really about upskilling the workforce. It's about helping them expand beyond their discipline so they become not just multidisciplinary, but then also operate in a cross-organizational way. I feel very strongly that one of the keys to transformation and change is what I call spontaneous creativity, where you get a bunch of folks in a room with different skill sets. They come from different parts of the organization, and it creates this kind of primordial goo where all of a sudden different ideas pop out that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise. So technician of the future is not just about skilling them, but it's about positioning the workforce to interact in a way that maybe they weren't before.
So, following up on that, how are you, Sharon, working with your end users and customers so that to anticipate and ensure your solutions and services meet their needs and improve their mission readiness, which is essential? And once again, I'd really like you to tell us more about how you're leveraging sort of the Agile method in making this happen.
Yeah, so I think one of the important factors in leveraging continuous user feedback is using automation to do that, because our customer is the entire Department of Defense, and so collecting that data only manually and trying to triage that manually is completely unrealistic, especially to operate at speed. So we have been using Salesforce to collect all of those different customer interactions and some of the key themes. And what the technology lets you do from a customer relationship management standpoint, it can apply analytics across all those different engagements. And so common themes, common problem sets start to emerge, because we have to be able to synthesize, what is relevant to a vast majority of the department, because we are a enterprise provider and really need to hit as much of the customer population as possible.
So, before we close, I would like for you to maybe tell us maybe 3 takeaways you want our listeners to know about the hack.
So I think the biggest takeaway I would love folks to really internalize is that we're honest brokers. We're not trying to push people into any one particular area. We are trying to make the technology work in a way that makes sense, and then work with our customers to help them figure out what kind of technology they want to consume. And we're listening to them so that we know where we need to go moving forward. What new things do they need? How do they need things to be operating? So really the most important thing I would say is that, the hack is an honest broker, and hopefully that came through in the conversation. Another big takeaway is empowering the people and technician of the future. The hack is not just focusing on technology. We're focusing on our workforce, because that's how we're going to be successful. Trust amongst leadership in the workforce. That's how we're going to be successful. So you can't get after delivering the technology without having an empowered workforce in place. And then the other one I would mention is speed. We are moving fast. We are using Agile methodologies across the board and trying to refine those more and more. So, honest broker, optionality and speed to capability, and using Agile.
This has been the Business of Government Hour, a conversation with Sharon Woods, Director of the Hosting and Compute Center at the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA. Be sure to join us next time for another informative, insightful, and in-depth conversation on improving government leadership and its effectiveness. Until then, subscribe, download, and listen to the entire interview at Podcast One, iTunes, or on your favorite podcast app, and as always at businessofgovernment.org.